Some people are pretty well stressed out. Of all the things people stress about, of which there are many, somewhere near the top of the list is money.
Financial stress is a big deal, and that's what we're talking about today.
Financial stress can be horrible or it can be beneficial. And the financial stress you experience reaches into all aspects of your life. The Canadian researcher Hans Selye wrote a book called The Stress of Life. And in that book, he discusses that your body physiologically can't tell the difference between good stress or bad stress, but your mind can.
Hans Selye said, even the good stresses can cause our bodies to react in a negative way. So our body can't tell the difference. So we've got the stress, the common stresses of life, a death in the family, a birth in the family, a move, a job change. All those things create stress, and our body can't determine what kind of stress that is. We experience different emotions, joy or grief, but our body doesn't really know how to deal with it.
If we're going to stress, life is full of stresses, then why don't we, with our mind, choose to make the stress beneficial for us instead of horrible? And that's where we have the control.
So one of the things we can do as a mindset is to choose how we respond to the stresses that happen in our life, the things that happen in our life. Are we going to react to them, or are we going to create a response to them? And that's kind of what we're talking about today as we talk about the stress, the financial stress that we experience in our lives.
What are some of the negative effects of stress, especially when it comes to finances?
Well, I think every one of you can think of someone who has mentally and physically just been broken by the financial stress they've been under. I certainly can. And it's no fun to watch someone crumble under that pressure. I'm thinking specifically of Howard Hughes. He had all the money in the world, basically, and yet he was so mentally and physically distressed that it's reported that all he could eat was soda crackers for the last couple of years of his life.
That's certainly not the picture of wealth that I have. And not really the picture of wealth when we think, oh, someone's wealthy, that they're enjoying their life. He wasn't, because he had all this money, but that's all he had. And there's something that we often say is that some people are so poor, all they have is money. And there's a lot of different parts of wealth that if you are just going after money, you can easily sacrifice the most important parts of wealth, which can be relationships and health, those kind of things that you can't purchase with money.
In fact, the word wealth comes from the Old English word weal, W-E-A-L, which means health, it means well-being, and prosperity. And so when we talk about Wealth Talks here on Wealth Talks, we're talking about all aspects of wealth, not just finances.
To your point, Tom, I had the opportunity to take a call the other day from one of our clients, Dr. Randy in Washington. He's a very successful doctor, and he just wanted to call in and say, you know what, I love listening to Wealth Talks. The things that you talk about are just making me a better person. And wow, that comment made our day around here. So we love the comments that you make. We love the feedback you give, the questions that you pose for us to discuss on Wealth Talks. We love it all. So please keep your emails, your calls coming. We love it.
We sure do. We love it all. The emails, the phone calls, reading your reviews, your comments on YouTube. So if you'd take a minute and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, that helps other people to find the show as well. We'd greatly appreciate it.
I was reading an article in Forbes the other day, and the author was talking about how the finances in their life was destroying their marriage. He had quit his job and was starting his own occupation. I think it was in IT. And he was afraid to talk with his wife about the fact that the money just wasn't coming in. It was tearing him apart. And finally he said, okay, I got to just talk to my wife. And she was so supportive and so helpful that they built that business up and it became very successful. So don't let finances tear your marriage apart. Talk about it, discuss it, share it with one another. two people pulling together are going to get there faster than one by themselves.
Well, Tom, this is really an example of not the finances that were tearing the marriage apart. It was just blamed on the finances because actually it was the lack of communication and discussion and opportunity for agreement that was causing the friction. So fortunately, he went to his wife, they had that communication, she was receptive to it, and they found a way to work together. So it wasn't the finances itself, it was a communication problem that was creating stress. So when we can identify what it is we need to do to take care of the problem that we're experiencing, that's where we get ahead. That's where we're responding rather than reacting.
Stress can become relevant in different areas of life. Mentally, people can become depressed if they don't do something to handle stress in a positive way in their life. Physically, they can become overtired if they allow the stress to create a lack of sleep. Marriage problems, you just talked about that. Sometimes those can be communication problems. And then there's just relational problems, like everyday people interacting. Sometimes they take for granted what the other person brings to the friendship or the relationship, and they don't express the gratitude and the appreciation that for the meaning that that person brings to the relationship.
Michelle, this reminds me of what we wrote about in a biblical guide to personal finances. One ox can pull its own weight for a short distance. Two oxes teamed together can pull their combined weight for long distances. And so when we learn to communicate and have a good yoke between people, we can go a much further distance and be much more successful, not just financially, but every place in life.
I'm going to blow my whistle. Tom got me this whistle years ago. And it's because if something was going wrong at home, all the kids got wild or things weren't going right, I could stop, blow my whistle, and everyone else had to stop too. The kids knew that if the whistle blew, they had to stop right what they were doing. True, sometimes they would try to get in a little better position, like standing on one foot, so it's a little more dramatic. Their stop was a little bit more dramatic. But sometimes we have to blow the whistle in our life, and we just have to stop. Maybe it's how our day is going. It seems like one thing after another isn't going right. We just have to stop, blow our whistle. Sometimes we don't have a physical whistle with us, so it's just a mental whistle that we have to blow, stop, and reconsider. I am reacting to what's going on around me today. I need to respond. How can I respond differently? And just taking that time, making that mental note to adjust can be very helpful. And sometimes we have to do that with our finances. Sometimes our finances are in chaos and we have to stop and say, what is going on? Where am I spending? Am I saving money like I should? Do I need to cut out some of my wants and desires right now and focus on what I need to spend the money on? Sometimes it's just a matter of blowing your whistle and taking a second look on how you can respond to the situation around you.
Reactions can be important because they can get you out of harm's way very quickly. But if you always go through life reacting to things, that's not going to be a very good picture. I have here a stack of plates that reminds me of a time we were on vacation, and walking around in the hotel dining room was this guy with a stack of plates. And this was a dining room where people were up and walking about because it was a buffet. And so you had to go get your food. So there were people up and down all the way through.
I remember that.
Yeah, the dinner. And this guy's walking through with this stack of plates. He would drop them right in front of people. These were paper or plastic. These were the real plates making the noise. There's a whole lot of plate rattling in the financial world. And if we always go through life reacting to the plate rattling, we're not going to be focusing on what we really need to be.
I remember loving to watch the reactions of people when those plates fell and and then they didn't break. And it was like, oh,
A relief.
And that's the difference between a response and a reaction. The reaction was good. That reflex is in us to do that. That's why we need the whistle in our life sometimes, just to say, stop, let's reevaluate.
When we get back from the break, we're going to talk about how to plan and prepare to be financially successful in life.
Ken is a client of McPhee Insurance. In 2008, he lost about half of his investments. That was before he was a client, but he had been following conventional financial wisdom to a T. Many people don't put enough money away for their retirement, but Ken did put money away for his retirement. He says the most frustrating thing when 2008 came along, he had been putting money away for 35 years, and it hadn't grown to what he expected it should have. Then 2008 came along, and it took half of it away. He really felt like he was backpedaling instead of making progress the way he should. That's when Ken discovered using life insurance as a financial tool with the infinite banking concept. He says not only does it give him more stability with his finances, but it puts him back in control instead of giving control to somebody else. Many people find out about using life insurance as a financial tool during an economic downturn or a market crash. And while it's good they're getting the coverage they need, we really wish we could turn the clock back for these people so they could have the good life insurance in place before the economic downturn or the market crash. Because good life insurance helps you to keep more of the money that you make, grow your wealth, and have financial peace of mind even during turbulent economic times. To get the good life insurance you need, call McPhee Insurance at 702-660-7000. Call us sooner than later.
Expecting to be financially successful is futile and can make your heart sick if you haven't made the preparation to be financially successful. Let's talk about some of the planning and preparation that should go into being financially successful.
One of our family's favorite go-to to listen to is Zig Ziglar's series, Born to Win. In that series, he says this, and I want to read it so I get it right. You were born to win, but to be the winner you were born to be, you must plan to win and prepare to win. Then and only then can you legitimately expect to win.
Ziglar says that you have to plan and prepare to win. Planning is one of the first steps. And when people come and they want to make sure they're going to have enough money in retirement or enough money to make a certain purchase without affecting their lifestyle, it's often important to start with a plan. That's when many people come to me to make sure that they have that plan. The plan is like the vision of where you want to go. But then you have to break down that plan. Once you have the big picture, you have to break it down into steps that are actionable, that you can take from where you are right now to where you want to be in the future. Both of those steps are very important. That's part of the preparation.
Planning gives you a vision of what could be or can be in your life. And then after the plan is put in place, we have to set goals to make sure the plan and the vision become reality.
Mindset is so important here too. I think about the story of the richest man in Babylon where, a man really didn't want to work, but then he went and saw the slaves that were working in ancient Babylon building the pyramids and all of that. And he saw the slaves that were being beaten. And he knew that at one time they had been they were able to work on their own, but, circumstances in their life, choices they made, they ended up becoming a slave. And then they had no choice and they were just driven. And the takeaway message from that was that man realized, I need to work for myself. I need to be in charge of my life and how I work. And even if you have a job, you're employed through somewhere, you can still have the mindset that you're working for yourself because you can choose the attitude that you have while you're working. We have a lot of options. And when we have the mindset that we're working for ourselves, we're working towards our goals. Even if we're working for an employer, we can be working on our own goals and choosing our mindset and realize that the employment we're engaged in is being profitable to our goals. And that mindset that we have about our work and about the financial plans that we have is huge in helping us become successful financially.
A couple of the ingredients that are necessary for that to take place is to have an income. That's one of the skills you have to build to be able to provide services that other people are willing to pay for. And an income is one of the greatest assets that somebody can have as they're preparing for their financial success, building that strong income. Another important step in that process is they have to be able to save a portion of that income. Some people make a little bit of income and they spend it all. Some people make a lot of income and they spend it all. If you don't have that step of saving, whether you have a small income or a large income, it's going to be hard to take that first step toward financial success.
Well, so often people like to say, well, when I start making more money, then I'll be able to save. And they don't realize that whatever their income is, they still need to attribute a portion of it to their savings. It's just like, what if somebody said, well, when I make more money, I'll start eating? No, that you have to eat, you have to sleep. Whatever income level you are, there's certain things that you have to do in life. It's not a question of how much money you have, whether that's an option or not. How much you save is based on how much money you have. But the actual savings itself is not dependent on making more money.
And once you're saving, then you have to put that savings in the right places. Otherwise, it can run away pretty quickly.
If you find yourself in a bad, horrible financial situation right now, it's time to blow your whistle. It's time to sit back and say, what am I doing that I could do differently to make my life better? Get a financial plan, then set goals. If you don't have a vision, how are you ever going to get there? An archer or a target shooter can't hit a target they can't see. So make sure you sit down and take the time to evaluate what's going on in your life and have a vision of what you want to become so you can set goals to get there.
There is no external cure for financial stress from anxiety. If you are financially stressed with a small amount of money, you will be financially stressed with a larger amount of money.
I always remember what my father told me when I was growing up. He said, Tom, if you put God first in your life, in everything, then he will take care of you. Because remember, he said that he takes care of the birds of the air, he clothes the flowers of the field, and even Solomon, in all of his glory and splendor, were not dressed like that or had the abundance that the birds had.
That's a beautiful faith. Thank you for listening to Wealth Talks. We hope you enjoy and benefit from the material. Would you do us a favor and leave a review on Wealth Talks podcast? You can go to Apple Podcasts, look for Wealth Talks, and leave us a review there. That would mean a lot to us. Next week, we're going to talk about investment banking, the infinite banking concept, and how to think like a banker right here on Wealth Talks.